Hello viewers, and welcome to yet another live-action commentated match of Warhammer 40,000 Conquest. My name is Mitch, and I am the Hive Tyrant. Today, I'm pleased to present you with a game taken from the semi-finals of the 2015 Nordic National Championship event. To the left, we have a gentleman named Kevin Engel, whom has opted to play as the Tau faction core set Warlord Commander Shadowsun. He's currently in possession of our initiative token, and to the right resides a player named Victor Edstrøm, whom instead has opted to play as the original Dark Eldar faction warlord Packmaster Kith. To the left, we can readily see that our Tau player has decided to ally with Space Marines. At planet number 1, we've got a copy of the 3-cost Blood Angels Veterans. It's 3 attack, 3 hit points with 1 associated command icon. It's got a reaction where so long as it remains ready, each and every instance of damage it incurs, you basically ignore the first point of damage. At planet number 2, we've got a copy of the 2-cost, 2 attack, 2 hit point, 1 command icon Borkon Recruits. They happen to get a +2 attack value bonus so long as a warlord is present at that planet. And yet another 2-cost unit, we've got a copy of the Vashya Trailblazer currently residing at planet number 4. It's got 2 command icons and the mobile keyword. And on the opposite end of the table for Packmaster Kith, we've got a couple different copies of Kith's Chimera Masters positioned at planets 2 and 4. They themselves are a 1-2 unit with a command icon, so both of our players are going to be breaking even in regard to command struggle victories. At planet number 2 and at planet number 4, the 1 command icon attached to that Chimera Master is going to be insufficient to surmount that copy of the Vashya Trailblazer controlled by Kevin. But we've already got 2 Chimera tokens in play. Those are 2 1s. Packmaster Kith, as soon as she shows up at a planet, is going to end up generating Chimera token number 3. We don't happen to have a Chimera Den in play yet for, Kevin's good fortune there, but we do happen to have a copy of the Archon's Palace. It's a unique support, and Packmaster Kith is going to be able to pick and choose one of the command struggles won by his opponent, and then either shut off the card or resource bonus associated with that planet. Looks as though we've only got 1 planet on the board with a 2-card bonus. Generally, players value cards more so than resources. So, if it were Commander Shadowsun being sent to that planet, I think that would be a prime target for cancellation thanks to Archon's Palace there. But Kith instead shows up to planet number 5. She generates that 2-1 Chimera token. She herself is going to be a 2-6, relatively high damage output, but frail warlord. Commander Shadowsun far more hardy, less formidable as a 1-7 herself. Looks as though at planet number 1 we saw some kind of bonus being shut off. And Shadowsun, of course, you either pick your discard pile or your hand and you put a 2-cost attachment into play, either recurred from your discard or from your hand onto an eligible unit at her planet. Looks as though Victor is going to be playing a copy of Superiority. I can only imagine that's going to be played out on that Vashya Trailblazer. We're about to see battles break out at planets number 1, 2, and 5, but in regard to command, planet number 1, which is Yvarn, is going to be a free resource there for Kevin. I don't think that Victor has enough resources to put into play any kind of ambush unit along the lines of a Clavex War Leader or anything like that. So that Blood Angels Veterans is going to be able to win that Tricon planet basically without any contest. Planet number 2, Commander Shadowsun, is going to relay 1 card or 1 resource depending on what the Archon's Palace shut off. Planet number 3 is going to be uncontested. Planet number 4 is presumably going to be a card and a resource there for Kith. And planet number 5 is going to be a couple of cards for Kith. But things are going fast and furious in this match. Looks as though Yvarn was not just won by that copy of the Blood Angels Veterans, but that's going to be the copy of Yvarn triggered. Its battle ability allows both players, mandatorily forces both players to take an army unit from their hand and put it into play in their HQ. To the left, we've got a copy of the 5-cost Land Raider. It's a 3-7 with 3 command icons. So long as it's present at a planet, non-vehicle units cannot be the target of enemy card abilities. Looks like we've got a battle erupting at planet number 2. Commander Shadowsun, of course, has the initiative. The Borkon Recruits are going to swing for 4. They managed to kill off that copy of the Chimera token, and now the Kith's Chimera Masters are going to be swinging in return for a massive 1. Looks as though the Borkon Recruits are going to take that point of damage, and then it's going to be up to Commander Shadowsun. She's going to take a swing at the Kith's Chimera Masters. They take a point of damage, and note we've got a copy of the Incubus Warrior now residing in Victor's HQ. It's a 3-1 with 2 command icons put into play from Yvarn. we happen to see that copy of Kith's Chimera Masters retreat, and that's going to be a copy of Foretell, so Packmaster Kith is going to be exhausted. Victor to the right is going to draw a card. He's going to cancel the battle ability of that planet Karnath. So, running real quick down our line of planets, Kith, of course, is going to be able to trigger planet number 5, Barless. That's going to be one random card discarded from our Tau faction player's hand, but in any case, our soon-to-be planet number 1 is going to be Karnath. The next planet in line is going to be Iridial, the healing planet. Looks as though that random discard, by the way, was a copy of Blood Angels Veterans. Our soon-to-be planet number 3, as we move into the HQ phase here, is going to be Taurus. If you've got fewer units, if you win a battle at that planet, you're going to be able to pick cards or resources and win 3 of those of your choice. Barless, planet number 4, random card discard. New planet number 5 is going to be Ossus 4, the Steel 1 resource planet. So, at present, our Tau faction player has 1 planet type icon of each kind. The initiative token is currently in Victor Edstrøm's possession. Both of our players generated 4 resources. They drew 2 cards because we've seen our HQ phase come and go, and now it's going to be up to Victor to choose what exactly he wants to deploy. So that copy of the Incubus Warrior currently sitting in Victor's HQ isn't going to be doing him much good. That's going to be showing up at a planet, but it's not going to be able to contribute its command icons. A 1 HP unit is pretty frail. We see a copy of Raid played out there to the right. That's a limited card, his 1 limited card for the round, so that disallows any use of promotion or, God forbid, his faction-specific army unit resource cost-reducing support or a Prometheum mine or anything like that we generally don't see at a national championship event. But in any case, Raid does allow him to steal 1 resource. And note, Commander Shadowsun has a hell of a lot of units clogging up her HQ. Interestingly, last round we did not see Commander Shadowsun put an attachment into play, but I happened to spy a copy of the signature attachment, the Command Link drone, there in Commander Shadowsun's hand. Looks as though Commander Shadowsun has passed, and we've now got a copy of the Ambush Platform in play in Commander Shadowsun's HQ. So, Ambush Platform decreases the requisite cost of each and every attachment you play by 1, and it allows you to use a combat action to deploy an attachment from your hand. Commander Shadowsun herself, you can put attachments into play, but since Ambush Platform allows you to deploy things as an attachment, you can use that to put a gun drones into play for 1, whereas Commander Shadowsun cannot target that unit because it's an army unit. But planet number 1, we've got a copy of Bloodied Reavers, played out by Packmaster Kith. That's essentially the Dark Eldar vehicle version of that Borkon Recruits, 2/2 with a command icon with that +2 attack bonus, but it's got the added downside of no war gear attachments, so no Shadow Field, no Agonizer of Bryn. Planet number 4 looks as though we see our 3rd copy of the Kith's Chimera Masters. That's going to be our 3rd Chimera token in play at present. There was 1 destroyed the previous turn. At planet number 5, we've got a copy of the 2 attack, 2 hit point, 2 command icon Slith Mercenary that any player as an action can pay 2 resources to purchase, provided they do have an action window. And once your opponent's passed, there's no better time than then to play that card, because at that point you can win command and your opponent can't do shit about it. So, Kevin has 3 resources in his resource pool. Packmaster Kith has 1 at present, but I'm sure that's going to be changing very shortly indeed. Looks like Kith is set up pretty reasonably in regard to command. Looks as though the earliest victory condition we could possibly see for Commander Shadowsun is going to be our current planet number 2. We could see a victory there through blue or red type icons. Packmaster Kith, playing that long game as she so often does, is going to be sending herself once again to Barless, doing that whole card choke thing. This is going to be not only 2 additional resources for 2 additional cards for Packmaster Kith, but it's going to be another random discard by Kith directed toward the Tau faction player. But Karnath is going to be on the line. We see Archon's Palace activate. I can only imagine that we're choosing card bonuses to get rid of, and that's another copy of Superiority, presumably shutting off card bonuses. So, for the sake of argument, let's say planet number 1 is going to be 1 resource by 1 by Commander Shadowsun. I haven't seen Kevin touch the top of his deck. Planet number 2 is going to be uncontested. Planet number 3 is going to be 1 card, 1 resource, potentially, for Kevin, unless the Superiority once again targeted that Vashgal Trailblazer. Planet number 4 is going to be 2 cards for Packmaster Kith, and planet number 5 is going to be 2 cards for Victor. So, planet number 1, Commander Shadowsun does not hold the initiative token, but she's the only warlord present at that planet, and that means she's going to get the opportunity need to attack first. The Borkon recruits are going to be able to attack for 4, and what exactly are we going to see? We're going to see a copy of Archon's Terror, because the resource is won by Victor Edstrøm, but unfortunately for his sake, it looks as though there's a little bit of an argument going on, because there's that copy of Land Raider, which of course is going to disallow enemy units from being the direct target of events, non-vehicle units. So what we could do is we could have one Archon's Terror remove the Land Raider, then we could have a second copy of Archon's Terror, should resources allow for it, remove that Borkon recruits, but otherwise, Victor there to the right is shit out of luck. So what exactly is going to be happening? We've still got that action window prior to attacking, so it looks like there's a bit of a take back regarding that Archon's Terror, and now it's going to be that Borkon recruit staring down that copy of the Bloodied Reavers. Looks as though Victor is going to have to kind of accept the embrace of death, and that is going to be a dead Bloodied Reavers. We could have seen a copy of the Agonizer of Bren discarded. That would have been a signature 3 shield value attachment discarded, but wouldn't you know it, that's another copy of Foretell that cancels the battle ability there of Karnath. So whatever effect that would have happened to have been triggering, presumably, I guess, Taurus, though I'm not going to take the time to count the unit total, that could have been 3 cards for our Commander Shadowsun player. And now that that's gone, Packmaster Kith is going to have to be very careful indeed in regard to, trying to block off that planet. So I believe that was a red and a blue icon that our Tau faction player has picked up. I'm not absolute certain. Note that those are indeed outside of view, but if memory serves, that's the icons that are associated with Karnath there. But it looks as though Packmaster Kith is going to end up winning the battle at Barlas. Even though she's exhausted, she's got a tremendous number of units there to finish the fight for her, Halo style. We've got another HQ phase coming and going. It's going to be an additional 2 cards for both of our players, struggling to overwhelm that Dark Eldar faction card choke, and that of course is going to be 4 resources as well. So let's hope for Kevin's sake he got something good, and let's hope that for Victor's sake he's going to be able to put something at the first planet to block that tremendous onslaught of enemy units that are going to be showing up. That Borkon recruits, the Land Raider, the Blood Angels veterans, granted they're all going to be showing up exhausted, but that is still just a mountain of units to get rid of, and it looks as though that random card discard was going to be a copy of the Command Link drone. So very interesting that we've not seen Commander Shadowsun use her reaction a single time thus far this game, but the Command Link drone is definitely going to be an eligible target to be returned to play. It's just a shame that it costs 0, so you're not really getting a fantastic bit of use from it in putting it into play for free when it normally costs nothing. But we're starting to see the board just completely getting filled with these Chimera tokens. It looks like at present there are still 3 in play. Packmaster Kith is going to be generating another one wherever she goes. Fortunately, for Kevin's sake, we still have yet to see a copy of the Chimera drone. We see our Tau player pass. We've got a copy of the Vashya Trailblazer at planet number 1. That's another 2 command icon unit. And speaking of 2 command icon units, we've got another copy of the Slith Mercenary now positioned at planet number 1, and that is a Chimera Den, ladies and gentlemen, in Victor's HQ, and that's, as an action, going to let him pile any and all of his Chimera tokens upon one planet. And what's the best time to do that? Why, when your opponent's going to be sending all of his units to perhaps planet number 1 or planet number 2, and they're going to be exhausted, but no matter where he sends them, because it's an action, you can wait until you have all of the information of where exactly your enemy warlord was commit, and then you can make your decision. So planets number 1 and 2 are going to be victory conditions for our Tau faction player, and then apart from that, if Kith manages to block off those 2 planets, I don't think we're actually going to see another victory condition planet until planet number 5 there for our Tau player, so he's going to have to go to either planet number 1 or planet number 2, and it's going to be up to Kith here to try to shore up both of those planets as best she can. We've got a copy of Shadowfield affixed to the copy of the Slith Mercenaries at planet number 1. That's a pretty interesting play. That's a 2/2, but now it's got a Shadow Field, so you slap that onto a Dark Eldar faction unit. Units that cost 2 or less, army units that cost 2 or less, can no longer harm that unit, so Vashya Trailblazer cannot kill it, Borkon recruits cannot kill it, but what can? Why, Commander Shadowsun can, or the Blood Angels veterans, or the 5-cost Land Raider. So if Commander Shadowsun shows up, she can bounce that copy of the Command Link drone onto herself, or any other unit at that planet that happens to confer a +1 attack value value bonus, and then you can pay a resource as an action to shift that off of one of your units and onto another one. So, considering that Shadowsun's got a tremendous surplus of resources there, we could just see that bounce from unit to unit. So attack, use an action to shift the attachment so that you're attacking with that +1 bonus each and every time, unless your opponent does something clever along the lines of, using an Archon's Terror on that unit. And then, the obvious problem associated with that is that Land Raider is still disallowing that effect from taking place, so this Chimera Den is going to be of critical importance there for Packmaster Kith. I can only wonder, is Packmaster Kith going to show up at Barless again to do that random card discard, or is Kith herself going to show up at a more combat-relevant planet? Looks as though Kith was trying to block off Taurus. That would have been a less greedy win for Commander Shadowsun. Shadowsun's really doing that first planet bullying thing, but Taurus, without even counting, if you take a right side of the table, something tells me in my heart that our Dark Eldar player has a higher unit count than does our Tau. But we now see that copy of the Command Link drone interplay, and in regard to Command, planet number 1, the card bonus is going to be shut off there for the first planet. Planet number 2, Kith is going to win a card and a resource over that Vashial Trailblazer. Planet number 3 is going to be 2 cards for Packmaster Kith. Planet number 4 is going to be 2 resources for Victor. Planet number 5, thanks to the presence of a Void Pirate, that's going to be not just 2 resources, but also an additional +1 card bonus. Packmaster Kith has got quite a few resources available to her. It's going to be a grand total of 7, which is going to be enough for a Clavex War Leader and an Archon's Terror. Note that there is only 1 unit at planet number 1, so things are looking pretty dangerous indeed for Packmaster Kith at the beginning, for Packmaster Kith. At the beginning of the combat phase, we see that mobile keyword-laden copy of Vashial Trailblazer move over to that planet, and here's something very sneaky indeed that we can see. So Victor is a pretty damn decent player, if I don't say so myself. Check this out. Let's say Packmaster Kith takes a swing, let's say Commander Shadowsun takes a swing at that Slith Mercenaries. If we see even a single shield card used, that unit's not going to be killed, and then the Vashial Trailblazers are both going to have to attack, but they cannot damage that Slith Mercenary. That means they're both going to be exhausted, and as soon as that happens, then we can see those Chimera tokens opportunistically shift in, deal out a monumental amount of damage to all of the opposing Tau forces, and then hopefully for Victor's sake, he's going to have a copy of, Clavex War Leader to start, instant gibbing one of these enemy units, and then as it's a 3/3 ambush unit, it can start killing off stuff itself. But we see that copy of Archon's Terror finally being played. Land Raider, goodbye. You were back in Commander Shadowsun's HQ. That's what Xenos get for allying with Space Marines, I guess. It all blows up in their face. It goes sideways at some point or another. Interestingly, we saw Commander Shadowsun move her attachment. It looks as though that's going to be affixed to the Borkon recruits. That's a very interesting choice indeed. We see for the Tau Voss, so you pay a couple resources, you exhaust your Warlord. Each and every unit you control that happens to possess an attachment is going to be suddenly readied, and that is going to mean that Borkon recruits. Interestingly, we see a copy of Archon's Terror used to banish that unit. If memory serves, I could have sworn that Shadowfield would have made the Slith Mercenary immune from being destroyed by that. The Borkon recruits, if it was attacking for 4 or 5, whatever it happened to be, I still think that was going to be entirely immune from it, and it looks as though that is the case, because Victor is going to be showing off that snazzy copy of the Shadowfield there. It's apparently a very rare piece of Dark Eldar technology, according to the fluff, but holy hell is it ever serving to just be an absolute lifesaver right now. So, interestingly, we see a copy of the Vashial Trailblazer now wielding that Command Link drone, and that's, unfortunately, I'm not sure if that's going to be an illegal play or not. That's a copy of the Squadron redeployment that's trying to target an enemy unit, but the problem is the way that works is you exhaust a unit that has an attachment to move it to a different planet, and this is actually really working in Commander Shadowsun's favor in an illegal sense, because that's actually a cost, and therefore you cannot pay a cost with an enemy unit. So, unfortunately, that copy of Slith Mercenary is not, it shouldn't actually be sent to the 5th planet, but regardless, we see that copy of Chimera Den shift the 4 Chimera tokens to planet number 1, and that is going to be a lot of ready units able to kill off some of these Vashial Trailblazers and whatnot, so I can only imagine at some point we saw the end of a command phase because these Chimera tokens are potentially taking attacks. The Vashial Trailblazer with the command link drone takes a swing. It's going to be swinging for 2, but a copy of Raid means that, 2 minus 2 is going to be 0. The Chimera token survives. We see a Chimera token take a swing at the ready Vashial Trailblazer. That's going to be 2 points of damage, equate to a dead copy of the Vashial Trailblazer, and now that's going to be 3 additional Chimera tokens left. That's going to be a swing at Commander Shadowsun, and I guess maybe he's okay. Yeah, sorry. So it's going to be 2 Chimera tokens killing the copy of Blood Angels Veterans that was until just a moment ago off of screen. I happen to forget about that entirely. That's going to be another, I guess, dead copy of Vashial Trailblazer, and we must have paid a resource at some point. Commander Shadowsun did have the command link drone attached to her, so we're going to come to the end of a combat round. Commander Shadowsun is going to be the player with initiative, so Shadowsun's going to have to decide, does she want to stay at that planet? Does she want to try to kill off all of those Chimera tokens, or instead, is she going to retreat and then try to win through Taurus the following round? 4 Chimera tokens is going to be a hell of a lot to try to surmount, and unless our Tau faction player has a hand just absolutely full of shield cards, I don't see how Commander Shadowsun is going to be able to fight her way through this one. Looks as though Commander Shadowsun is indeed going to end up retreating, and that is going to be the Chimera tokens being bounced back to the HQ at the end of the phase there. So Iridial is going to be won by our Dark Eldar player. That's going to be 1 planet type icon for him. So he's got a red, green, and blue, whereas our Tau faction player has 2 red, 2 blue, and 1 green. So it's going to be up to Commander Shadowsun to try to either win at Taurus, or otherwise we'll have to try to see a victory at planet number 4, which is currently Theron, the route a non-Warlord unit planet. So we see yet another HQ phase go. And again, my apologies for a little bit of a confusion here regarding the whole Shadowfield thing, regarding the whole squadron redeployment. Definitely it goes to show that even at a very high national tournament level, no player is without some small imperfection. But of course, very well played to both of these gentlemen, and a tremendous thank you to them and Alexander Chimadon for allowing me to host this footage in the first place upon my channel. But we still see more Dark Eldar deploy actions. We've got a copy of the Void Pirate being put out to planet number 3. And look at that HQ full of units there for our Dark Eldar player. Something interesting to note, as it seems as though Commander Shadowsun has passed after putting out a copy of the Rogue Trader to planet number 1, a Void Pirate to planet number 1. We see a Rogue Trader to planet number 1 and 2 for Beakdor. We have a copy of the Warlock Destructor at planet number 1 to nicely deny that victory condition, and this is what I was actually going to say. The Chimera Den can use its action prior to the command phase in order to move all of these Chimera tokens to whatever planet seems most relevant, probably Taurus, or it looks as though it's actually going to be Barless. So all of these Chimera are going to be, well, okay, maybe not. So wherever the Chimera tokens end up being placed, they're going to be ready going into the first round of combat, as opposed to what we would see otherwise, which is that if they were to be sent to a planet alongside a warlord, they would show up exhausted. So that's going to be the Chimera Den, placing 4 Chimera tokens, those 2/1 units, all on planet number 1. They're going to basically prevent Commander Shadowsun from being able to win the game at that planet. If Shadowsun had the gall, had the audacity to show up, she'd be facing down a 3/4, a 1/2, and 4 2/1s, and then Packmaster Kith herself could also choose to go to that planet. So Commander Shadowsun's got to win at current planet number 1 or planet number 4, and the longer we see one of our players wait, the harder it's going to get. So looks as though our players have got to decide where exactly they want to send their warlords. Commander Shadowsun's got a fairly large retinue of units, or at least they're expensive, in her HQ that are going to be traveling alongside her. I think Commander Shadowsun only has 2 cards in hand. I can't really see either of those being a 2-cost attachment. Looks like maybe they're 2 copies of For the Tau Va, but considering we've only got 1 attachment in play, that's not going to be too tremendously helpful. I guess, the best case situation, if you want to call it that, would be like Commander Shadowsun spending 1 resource to transfer the command link drone onto like the Borkon Recruit, and then playing for the Tau Va, which you pay 2 resources and exhaust your Warlord just to ready the Borkon Recruits. But Victor is going to be our player there with the initiative token, so he'll have the opportunity to swing first, and he could end up killing off the Borkon Recruits, whether they're ready or not, but looks as though Kith and Commander Shadowsun are both going to show up at planet number 2, so it looks like Shadowsun has abandoned that early-ish game victory condition, and now Shadowsun's going to have to be in it for the long haul, and this is going to be one hell of a card and resource choke going on for our Dark Eldar player. Look at that formidable economy, my god. Planet number 1, Kith is going to win. That's going to be 1 card, 2 resources to the right for Victor. Planet number 2, Kith and Commander Shadowsun both showed up. That's going to be a total of 2 cards and 1 resource for Kith. Planet number 3 is going to be 1 card, 2 resources for Kith. Planet number 4 is going to be 2 resources and 1 card for Kith. Interesting to note, some time ago when that copy of the Shadowfield equipped Slith Mercenaries was sitting at, I believe it was the first planet at the time, we saw quite a few resources used to purchase that command link drone, and, to transfer the command link drone from unit to unit, and that easily would have been something we could have seen, like those resources instead could have been used to purchase control of the Slith Mercenary, and depending on which player had more resources available, that could have potentially worked out much better, but then again, when you're the player putting Slith Mercenary into play, if you can continue to shrink the game state, like if you're doing better than your opponent is economically, if you spend 6 resources and they spend 6 resources struggling to bribe that unit, if you're far more likely to win back all those resources, then you're going to be doing much better in the long term than your opponent. Looks as though Packmaster Kith ended up accidentally dropping a copy of Superiority onto the table there. Packmaster Kith of course, entirely uncontested. I think it was a Void Pirate was killed at planet number 1, but that's going to be Tara successfully defended. So goodbye to Commander Shadowsun's victory condition. Looks as though we're going to see that command link drone shift hands. I guess our initiative token is currently going to be in the possession of Kevin Engel. Perhaps that was slightly misplaced earlier in this match, and it looks as though the command link drone is now affixed to that copy of the Land Raider. I don't believe that the command link drone happens to be war gear, so I imagine it's vehicle eligible, but I'd have to check. We now see that copy of For the Tau Va played. That's going to be Commander Shadowsun exhausted, and that's going to be the Land Raider readied, but if there's anything it doesn't do, it doesn't protect itself, and that's going to be, I believe, a 3rd copy of Archon's Terror, sending that Land Raider banished back to its HQ. So check it out. Commander Shadowsun is going to be exhausted. The Borkon Recruits are also exhausted, and that's going to be a lot of Dark Eldar having the option of attacking here. So all those Chimera token were swept up into the HQ. Of course, you can't distribute them across multiple planets thanks to the Chimera Den, but we're going to see a lot of attacks going out fast and furious. That's going to be Commander Shadowsun having taken 3 points of damage from the Incubus Warrior, I believe. That's going to be a Chimera token taking a swing. We see For the Tau Va discarded. That's going to be another point of damage dealt out to Commander Shadowsun. Those Kith's Chimera Masters are going to be just basically cleaning up, so that's going to be 5 total damage dealt out to Commander Shadowsun, and that's going to be a dead copy of the Borkon Recruits, and it looks as though we actually had enough firepower at that planet to result in the bloodying of Commander Shadowsun. So, at this point, Commander Shadowsun isn't looking like much. If memory serves, I believe on her bloodied side, she's something along the lines of a 1-5, a 1-6 at best, and that is definitely not going to be too tremendously beneficial there. Looks as though Packmaster Kith is going to bounce back to her HQ. The opposition here, Sir Kevin Engel, isn't going to have any cards in hand with which to randomly discard. And during this HQ phase, he's going to end up drawing 2 cards, so we see that HQ phase occur. The initiative token, I believe, is now going to be in the possession of Packmaster Kith. And as things are going on here, we now see our Packmaster holding 2 red material type icons and 2 green strongpoint type icons in his HQ. And that means if Packmaster Kith ends up taking Barless, that's going to be the game. But there we go. Looks like Kevin extends the hand, and that's going to be the GG. So good game, very well played played by both of our players. Congratulations to Victor Edstrøm for managing to make it past the semi-finals of the Nordic National Championship. If you've yet to see the absolute final match of the 2015 Nordic Championship, I would strongly recommend you do so. It's also on this channel. It's pitting Robert Austein against Victor Edstrøm here. So thank you to Alexander Chimiran for providing me with this footage today, and of course very well played by both of our players. It was a little bit of an unfortunate turn of events thanks to that squadron redeployment, but that's certainly a very common mistake made, and of course it didn't really invalidate the result of this game, because in the end Packmaster Kith won, and Victor ended up taking this one home, so congratulations to him. Hopefully you enjoyed this match. Thank you for watching, and as always, if you enjoyed this content, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you've not done so already, or if you are already subscribed, I always encourage you to share this content, because the more individuals there are that stumble upon these videos, the more people will end up exposed to Conquest. They may give the game a try, they may enjoy it, they may join our LCG community, and of course, all together, we continue to send the message to Fantasy Flight Games, telling them to continue to support this fantastic product. If at any point you'd like to get in touch with me, I would encourage you to do so through Facebook or on Twitter, and if you'd ever want to send in gameplay footage of your own, whether it's an isometric perspective camera just like the video you watched, or whether it's you recording your desktop and sending in octagon footage, I would be honored to, watch, spectate, commentate, record, and publish any kind of footage you send in on my channel, and of course I'm more than happy to plug local gaming clubs or stores. If you ever feel so inclined to support the Hive Tyrant, I would be absolutely flattered and humbled were you to investigate my Patreon and make either a donation or a contribution, as your support very much helps to keep this channel alive. But once again, thank you so much for watching, and as always, be sure to check back in again soon for much more Conquest LCG content to come.